Okay, on page 8, we're just going to continue practicing that procedure. It's a good idea to always review the procedure and copy down the steps in shorthand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the steps from page 7. Page 7 tells me to put a decimal point. Put a decimal point, rewrite the problem and line up my decimal points, put in zeros as placeholders, and then add. So I'm going to read my steps a few times to try and get them into my short-term memory. I'll put a decimal point. I'll rewrite the problem and line up my decimal points. I'll write in my zeros as placeholders, then I'll add. Again, I'll put in my decimal point. I'll rewrite to solve the problem and line up my decimal points. Write in my zeros as placeholders, then add. And so when I turn the page over, I quickly jot down my steps. I'll put in a decimal point, rewrite the problem to solve it, and line up my decimal points. These are my decimal points all lined up. I'll write in my zeros as placeholders, then add. Again, I'll put in a decimal point. I'll rewrite the problem to solve it, lining up my decimal points. I'll write zeros as my placeholders, then I'll add. Now that I have those steps in my short-term memory, and I have them here on my paper just in case, I'm going to use them. Let's do this problem together. 9 3/10 plus 8 442 thousandths. Step 1 is that I'll put in a decimal point. Well, I notice that both of these numbers already have a decimal point. So step 1 is done. Step 2 is I'll rewrite to solve and line up my decimal points. And so that I will need to do. 9 3/10 plus 8 442 thousandths. Now I need to make sure that my decimal points are lined up, and they are. Now I'm going to write in my zeros. I have a tenths number, adding it to a thousandths number. I'll have to write in those zeros. This will be 300 thousandths plus 442 thousandths. Now I can add. There's no regrouping needed for this problem. And so 9 plus 8, well, I happen to know it's 17, but if you don't know, you can count it out. 17 and 742 thousandths. Let's do one more problem together. You'll do this whole page the rest of this page by yourself. 7 plus 38 hundredths plus 18 4/10. Step 1 is I'll put in my decimal point. 7 whole units plus 38 hundredths plus 18 4/10. Now, each number has a decimal point, so I'm ready to write it to solve it. 7 whole units plus, keeping my decimal point lined up, 38 hundredths plus, keeping my decimal point lined up, 18 4/10. So step 2 is complete. I've rewritten it and I've kept my decimal points lined up. Now I'll put in my zeros as placeholders. I have a whole unit number, add it to a hundredths number, add it to a tenths number. I'm going to write in my zeros and make everything a hundredths number. This is 7 0 hundredths plus 38 hundredths plus 18 40 hundredths. Now I have a hundredths number plus a hundredths number plus a hundredths number. I'm ready to solve. 18 plus 7. I can count that one out fairly simply. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, which makes perfect sense. 25 decimal point 78 hundredths. And so there's my decimal point, there's my solution. I'm following those 4 steps. Complete the rest of this page.